Over and over, you have acted to make our banking system less safe, and that makes you a dangerous man.
For a man that has served under 4 presidents, you can tell that he is an enigma. What did 4 American presidents see in this fellow to have wanted him to be part of his economic team? You have to find out. Powell's stint with the Public Service began as far back as the 1990s, when he was appointed the Assistant Secretary of the US Treasury. He was later involved in an investigation of the Salomon Brothers, an investment bank for manipulating the Treasury bond market. His investigations led to the bank paying $290 million in fines and restitution. This is the story of Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell was born on February 4, 1953 in Washington, D.C. Patricia Hayden, his mother, was a lawyer in private practice. He graduated from the Georgetown Preparatory School in 1972, where he received a Bachelor of Arts in Politics from Princeton University. In 1979, he went on to add more power to his elbows by earning a Juris Doctor degree from Georgetown University Law Center. This additional certification prompted him to move to New York, where he became a clerk to a judge. Years later, he gained a wealth of experience working with several lawyers. By 1984, he joined an investment bank, concentrating on mergers and acquisitions, financing, and merchant banking. Powell married Alyssa Leonard in 1985, and the couple has 3 children. His estimated net worth is between $20 million and $55 million. You might have heard about this man in many forums, but you probably didn't notice some heartwarming details. When it comes time to pick a capable hand to head the Federal Reserve chair, Jerome Powell came to mind. Although some experts say it is a boring choice, it was worth it. He was an unusual choice because he is the first Fed chair since 1981 without a graduate education in economics. However, he earned this position because he's been in the private sector, where he worked for investment banks before and after his stint in the Treasury Department. After Bankers Trust was entangled in a trading scandal in 1995, he quit his job. This scandal cost its clients hundreds of millions of dollars. Powell's astounding career in finance made him the wealthiest Fed chair nominee since 1948. At the time, his net worth was between $19.7 million and $55 million. When Powell was at the Bipartisan Policy Center, he was key to brokering a 2011 agreement to raise the federal debt ceiling that allowed the U.S. government to borrow more money and avoid defaulting. Some economists say his decision was not healthy for the world's economy. While he didn't have a formal role in government, he went around Capitol Hill with a binder from the Bipartisan Policy Center. He used the opportunity to convince members of Congress of the dangers of default.
So we knew that we could be wrong, and I think I always thought we could pivot pretty quickly, catch up, and we did pivot when we started to pivot in the middle of last year and then pivoted hard at the end of the year. But in the meantime, the economy was really healing incredibly quickly over the second half of last year.
In one of his presentations, he explained that raising the debt ceiling was necessary. Otherwise, the government may be forced to pause all necessary payments like the Social Security checks. Despite the opposition to the bill from the Tea Party conservatives, the Senate assented to it. To prevent an economic crisis after COVID-19 struck, Powell has presided over a massive spike to ease the unconventional monetary policy in which nations' central banks buy up securities. Since 2020, these asset purchases have added trillions of dollars to the Fed's balance sheet. This policy was first deployed in response to the 2008 financial crisis. He was part of the team during Obama's tenure that maintained near 0% interest rates and deployed quantitative easing after the crash. As of then, he expressed his concerns about continued quantitative easing. In a 2012 committee meeting, he admitted that his policy could encourage investors to take uncalculated risks, believing that the Fed would always be there for them. In 2018, when the economy boomed, the Powell-led Fed responded to it by raising interest rates. Of course, businesses were booming, so his action was justifiable. Investors were uncomfortable with this decision, and this caused market declines that angered President Trump. This policy was later reversed in 2019, and the interest rates were slashed. While the Federal Reserve chairs don't make much sense to adults between 18 to 30 years, Powell has changed the narrative. The COVID-era quantitative easing has sparked a stock market boom that has boosted the popularity of trading apps. This has encouraged younger adults to pump money into the stock markets. As this boom gained momentum, forums like Reddit's Wall Street Bets began creating memes about Powell. One of his animations, titled "Money Printer Go Brr," shows him printing endless dollars. The meme has over 1.4 million views on YouTube. The chair of the Federal Reserve Board is the image maker of the Federal Reserve Bank. He's the board's executive officer and ensures that he modulates long-term interest rates, stabilizes prices, and creates employment.
It depends on maintaining financial stability. Our commitment to both the dual mandate and financial stability encourages the international community to hold and use dollars.
The Fed comprises 12 Federal Reserve banks located in various regions around the United States. Jerome Powell was appointed as chair on February 5, 2018. Before then, he was a member of the Board of Governors since 2012. The committee is made up of 12 members and has 8 scheduled meetings yearly to determine policy. Whether or not Powell is seen as a credible leader depends on who reviews him. He means many things to different people. While some consider him worthy of the role he occupies, others think it is high time he gives way to someone else. After Powell's tenure was supposed to expire in February 2022, Joe Biden was pressured to appoint someone else as the Federal Reserve Chair. In September 2021, Senator Elizabeth Warren criticized Powell and called him a dangerous man to head the Fed.
Renominating you means gambling that for the next 5 years, a Republican majority at the Federal Reserve with a Republican chair who has regularly voted to deregulate Wall Street won't drive this economy over a financial cliff again.
Under Ben Bernanke and Alan Greenspan, the Fed failed to regulate the banking system adequately and set the stage for the worst global economic downturn in 75 years. While the debate on who to chair the Fed was on, everyone agreed that the country needed a credible hand to steer the economy through the post-pandemic recovery. The opposition from different quarters did not stop President Joe Biden from reappointing him in November 2021. His confirmation for renomination was done on May 23, 2022, with Elizabeth Warren being the only senator to vote against him. Some economists say Jerome Powell is not the man America needs now because he supported former President Donald Trump's deregulatory agenda and risked the world's financial health. To date, he is still reluctant about addressing climate risk, although his colleagues in other parts of the world take it seriously. Powell would insist that climate issues are not part of his responsibilities, and as such, he would be wrong to dabble in it. Environmentalists think he is fighting a losing battle as climate change threatens financial stability. Let's even assume that his job description doesn't include our environment. How about other aspects of his job? The Fed is responsible for approving mergers in the financial sector. Report says Powell is used to approving all mergers, whether good or bad. If this is the case, he may not be the ideal person to occupy the position because the habit is unhealthy for the economy. The absence of regulation and lack of competition diminishes the supply of finance for small businesses and allows dominant players to take advantage of smaller businesses. Some commentators cannot help but praise Powell for his team's response to the pandemic. Critics say there is no big deal in relieving the monetary policy and rising interest rates during a recession. Some time ago, an ethics scandal involving market trades hit the Fed. Many officials lost confidence in his ability to manage the situation as they didn't trust his integrity. The Fed is supposed to work like the Supreme Court, which is independent of influence, but this doesn't happen. Powell, alongside Greenspan, considers their party before making crucial decisions. Although Powell's renomination was met with backlash from some quarters, it is only proof that the White House trusts him. The president said he was confident in the man he handed the economic baton. In a few seconds, let us peruse some of the likely changes that may occur in the banking industry during his tenure as chair. During his second term, Powell would no doubt maintain the status quo regarding bank regulations. Critics like Elizabeth believe he could continue his failed policies regardless of the outcome. However, the head of affairs said he would resist any move to weaken big bank capital requirements. The Fed is saddled with finalizing the Base 4 rules before January 2023. Officials had previously said they would implement it in a way that wouldn't force banks to raise more capital. As sad as this sounds, Powell's leadership would mean fewer or no changes to the Fed's view on bank mergers. Some senators who understand the politics of mergers have come after Powell on this. They said the Fed is too lax on signing off on mergers and would almost accept anyone that comes by. The Biden administration had earlier issued a directive to encourage numerous agencies like the Fed to review their merger practices and adopt a plan that strengthens mergers. While the Fed chair delegates bank supervision matters to the central bank's vice chairman, his support goes a long way in making functional changes to the Fed's oversight of banks and other financial institutions. It is unlikely that a lot would change regarding bank supervision under his watch. However, we expect the implementation of the stress capital buffer that simplifies the agency's capital regime. Judging by some of his policies, we can say he borrows a leaf from Quarles, who embarked on an effort to reform the Fed's supervisory regime. The aim was to ensure a more transparent regime than what is applicable today. After the pandemic hit, Quarles only hoped his successor would make his dreams a reality. Even if you don't like Jerome Powell's personality, there's no denying that his impact was felt in all sectors of the economy. The low interest rates during his tenure have helped encourage people to take soft loans and buy homes. This has helped the real estate market boom like never before. In his second tenure, we expect better prospects from the real estate market. While the real estate market is doing well under his watch, inflation is steadily increasing. In the early 1980s, inflation was on the increase. The then Fed chair, Paul Volcker, had to raise the interest rate from 11% to 20% to tame it. Although this trick worked for him, Powell, his successor, is too scared to take the bull by the horn. If you thought this video was interesting, wait till you watch the next video.